Ta 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 ta. What's up, guys? There's my royalty-free intro music to this smartphone USB-C podcast microphone face-off. How you doing, everybody? My name is Jason Dutch. I'm with Dig on America podcast. Now, real quick, we're a socio-political show. Now, I don't generally do reviews, but I did want to do a review on these two, actually a couple microphones, because I had an issue come up and went through the experience. So I figured I'd share the experience and it might come in helpful to somebody. So I'll try to make this as quick as possible and give you guys as much information as possible. Number one, my internet went down a couple weeks ago. We were in the middle of our live streaming to Twitch and YouTube and Periscope and everything like that. But during the middle of live stream, like I said, my internet went down. We used Streamyard. And when it went down, I couldn't do anything. So what I had to do, for my computer at least, so what I had to do is I had to resort to using my Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. Now, it has a great camera, but stock microphone is actually pretty good, but it's not particularly great. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute. So what I wanted to be able to do was to podcast when necessary in a pinch from my cell phone. Now, this could mean one of two things. I could do it, when my internet goes down, or maybe I'm out on the road somewhere. I don't have my PC, but I can carry a microphone with me and kind of go through all of that stuff and maybe do something on the fly out on the road. So I decided to look into some microphones. Now, I already have a microphone that I use I have like a little handle thing where I stabilize my phone, and I can use this, which is a Comica microphone. I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I can plug it into my phone. It goes in by 3.5 millimeter, and then I can face it and do a recording from there. Works a lot better than the stock microphone, but there's no audio in, and I'll dive back into that in a second. But for now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to share my screen here real quick. I am going to do this off of a PowerPoint, which I know is not probably how you guys expect these things to be done, because you have so many fancy schmancy people out there doing stuff with all this fancy video editing, but I'm not the greatest with video editing. So I'm going to go through it this particular way. But really good information, really good photos, I think. So let's rock and roll right through this. So the two microphones that I compared are going to be the Fifine K683A and the Comica STM-USB. Now, these smartphones, because I'm assuming if you're watching this, you want to be able to, at least part-time, podcast from your smartphone. Now, I am using, as I said again, a Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. I would imagine that everything that I am talking about right now will work on any Android phone. I would also imagine that with proper adapters, it will work on Apple. So I have a couple of microphones. For example, this one I had showed you before, which I also have an adapter, which I can use it on Apple, and it works fine on both devices. So I'm not painting with too broad of a brush here. You have to try it out for yourself, but I would imagine it will work on Apple as well. Excuse me. Okay, so let's get going with the review. As I mentioned, this was the microphone that I was using for comparative reasons. It's a Comica CVM-VS073. This is not a review on this microphone, but I am saying if you want to get something, then you don't need to be able to hear the people while you're live streaming. You're not having a conversation. You're just talking to people who are physically there with you. This is a great choice. It's very portable, very adaptable, very decent sound quality for around $25. You do need that adapter there that you see, which is about another $11. It is a directional microphone, not omnidirectional. Stay away from omnidirectional. I'll get back to that later. That's out of place. In case you're wondering, I am using for this podcast my general at-home studio microphone, which is an Audio-Technica 2100 XLR USB. It actually has both. It's a dynamic cardioid microphone, so I do have the volumes and everything set to where I want it, so it's not overpowering. But I am using that microphone now for comparative reasons. This is a great microphone for about anywhere from $90 to $120 if you're looking for something at home. The now on to the review. The two microphones that I looked at here first and foremost are the Fifine and the Comica. Again, the model number on the Fifine it's Fifine or Fifine K683A. The Comica or Comica, for the purposes of this podcast, I'm going to call them the Fifine and the Comica. The Comica is the STM-USB. Hopefully you guys don't hear the landscaper. As you can see, they both came nicely packaged. Professionally, the Comica, though, quite a bit bigger package. Unboxing, everything very, very neatly laid out. The Comica came with this interesting bag, which we'll come back to later. Everything well protected, everything nicely presented. This is when I laid everything out onto one of my mattresses. As you can see, you get all the different pieces that come with these two particular microphones. Now, a couple things to point out here. Number one, the cord. So the Fifine has a cord that has a bit of a proprietary. I'm not sure if it's completely proprietary or just uncommonly used, but you can probably see here. This is the part that plugs into the microphone that you see in the lower left-hand part of your screen. The other end of it is a USB-C. So again, if you're using Apple, you would have to have an adapter. It also, though, as you can see on the screen and here, it has a USB traditional and a USB-C on the same cord. So nice in that you don't have to buy, you don't have to lug two cords around with you. But if the cord breaks or if you lose it, not sure how you go about replacing it. The Comica comes with two cords, which is good and bad. They're common. They're USB-C to regular USB and C to C. So the C is the part that plugs into the microphone itself, and then you can either plug the C into your cell phone, or you can use the other plug and plug it into your computer, Mac, whatever. So this is everything out of the box. Now, these are the two user guides. And these are the two microphones next to each other. As you can see, the Comica is a little bit taller. One thing I should point out is that the Comica comes on a slightly heavier stand. It is a slightly lighter microphone, though. And the stand for the Comica doesn't move at all. It's pretty rigid. It's very rigid, in fact. Very, very durable metal. Where the Comica, it's not rigid. It's got some weight to it. It's not flimsy. And it sticks really well with those balls on the bottom of it. But it's collapsible, as you saw in the picture before. And I can show you that actually right here. This is the Fifine microphone collapsed. So it's a little bit more portable, where the Comica is not portable at least as much. It's still small, but it's not as portable because of the fact that the stand is so large. And by the way, neither of these will fit onto a boom stand or the traditional size screws or anything like that. They're really meant for desktop use. This is the two microphones again, but in this particular case, they don't have the screens on them that will help protect you from the P's and the B's and that sort of stuff. And then there they are with the screens on the microphones themselves. Both really, really attractive microphones. The Fifine is much heavier than the Comica. The Comica's got a little bit more plastic, I think, in it. But the Fifine is very, very, very solid piece of equipment as far as how it is built, which is interesting because it's less, and we'll get to that in a bit. So turning them onto their side, again, you want to be able to, if you want a podcast from your cell phone, or from a computer, if you want to just be able to do both, these mics will both help you do that, at least when it comes to Android on Streamyard. I would imagine it's the same for Zoom, Skype, that sort of thing. I would think that it might be slightly different with like Cast or Zencaster, but there is a couple differences here on the mic. As you can see, there are two dials on the Comica mic, which is on the right, where on the Fifine mic, there is only one dial. You can see it a little bit better here. On the Fifine on the left, there's one dial, and then below that's a mute button. And on the Comica, very clearly, you have a gain and volume button there. That's a big feature difference to have the volume and the gain, because the gain on the Fifine microphone is what the knob actually there does. The volume would have to be controlled via the computer if you plug it into the computer, or by the cell phone if you even have an app that does that. Now, you'll see in my sound test, didn't turn out to be a big deal. But the other thing is both of them will take a 3.5 millimeter microphone, like you saw I had a picture of earlier with the iPhone headphones. I'll give you a test on those as well in a bit. But you just plug in the 3.5, works perfectly fine. I tried it online, live stream, worked great. The mute button on the Fifine was on the front. It's obviously on the side here on the Comica. And another quick note is the Comica is dual band. So you can use cardioid. So cardioid is going to come out from the microphone sort of like this. And if you look at that shape on the microphone on the right, the Comica, on that switch there where it looks like a figure 8 and then the upside down heart, that's why they call it a cardioid, because it looks like a heart shape, only upside down. The figure 8 or infinity kind of symbol is basically, it's not omnidirectional, again, which sucks. It is more bidirectional. So I can put it on the table in between two people if I want to do that. Obviously, only one of you is going to get the windscreen, but it's going to sort of shut out sound coming from the side and pick up sound coming from behind and in front directly of the microphone. So an interesting feature there. The boom arms themselves and the stands, this is them by themselves. The Comica one is a little bit more adjustable. If you notice on the right, it's in an L shape down. I can also do that in an upside down L shape up to make the microphone a little bit higher. And then as you notice here, the one though is collapsible for the Fifine. On the Comica, it's not collapsible, but I can remove the little mini boom arm that comes with it. These are the windscreens. The windscreen for the I thought I had it right there, but for the Comica is a little bit flimsier. It's a much more rugged one for the Fifine, and it goes on pretty cool. It's got like a rubber strap on the back. Okay, so now we are at audio fight time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get this playing up for you all. Get this. I'm going to play this stuff from my tablet. So I saved the sound onto my Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. I did that on purpose because I didn't want to put it into Audacity. I did do a test in Audacity as well. I'm sure you could do the same on GarageBand. But if you're looking at this as a cell phone microphone, in a lot of those cases, unless you're using Streamyard or Zoom, you might be going into an area where you're not going to have noise reduction coming from the application that you're using. Streamyard does this, so you won't hear some of the noise that you might hear on this recording. Zoom does this as well. Zencaster and Cast do not have built-in noise reduction. So if you're on with someone else, you might get some static. Let them know. If it's audio only, they're probably editing at the end and they're going to do noise reduction. So it's not going to be a big deal. But the mic itself is going to work perfectly fine, and you're going to sound clear once they get that noise out. You'll see what I mean here in just a second. So let's go back in and get back into the slideshow here. And again, audio fight time. I'm big into this resurgence of Karate Kid with Cobra Kai. So I had to pay a little bit of homage to that. Here we go with the audio. So first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to skip by this. I'm going to do two more or less tests for a control group. The first one is going to be directly from my Samsung Galaxy S20 FE using the stock mic, which is going to be like facing, if you're seeing my hand here, I don't have a phone by me, but it's going to be facing this way, long ways. So the mic's going to be over here on this end, kind of facing that way, while the video is obviously facing on me. So that's how I recorded it, and here you go. Now, just for point of reference, to sort of give us a control group here, this is me speaking on the stock microphone with the phone on my Samsung Galaxy S20 FE from about a foot away from the phone itself, holding it in my hand. Now I'm about 4 inches away from the phone. Again, no microphone. And now I'm about 2 feet away from the phone. No microphone. Last control experiment here. I am now using a stock iPhone headset that comes with the iPhone. This is the older one, 3.5 millimeter.
That's what you're
using
seeing.
a USB-C adapter to fit my Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. Really only need to do the one test because it's a regular headset combo, mic combo, so can't really change the position on it too much.
Okay, so there you got to hear that. And honestly, as you can tell, the iPhone pretty damn poor. Um, so that is going to be like the low end of the barometer is the iPhone headphone using that particular microphone. It's much better, as you heard, to use the stock microphone, at least when it comes to the Galaxy, than it is to use one of these headsets if you are doing a live podcast or live stream. The only real plus is with the headphones is that if you're getting background noise or something, maybe, but it's just so much worse. And generally, you're not going to have any echo. So we're going to start with the Fifine. So here we go with the audio test I did on the Fifine. You'll hear me adjust the gain. You might hear me touch the mic. I apologize. But as you can see, there's an indicator light on there letting you know that it's working. I put some of the features there. And I'll tell you how far away I am from the microphone in both of these. And I'm going to let it play through for the next couple minutes.
Okay, guys, this is the Fifine K683A. Gain turned up to about 10 o'clock, which is where I'm testing at first. I'm about 7 to 10 inches away from the microphone. Going to move in closer here. Now I'm about 4 inches away from the microphone. And now I am about 18 inches away from the Fifine microphone. I'm going to turn the gain up a little bit, or down a little bit here. Now the gain is about 9 o'clock. This is again within the general range where you want to start. I am about a foot away from the microphone. Now I'm about 4 inches away from the microphone. And now I'm about 18 to 20 inches away from the microphone. I'm going to go back to about a foot away. And now I'm going to speak in a little bit more of a powerful voice. And now I'm going to speak in a little bit of a softer voice, conversational tone. Just to be fair, I'm going to move the gain back up and do that one more time. So we'll put the gain back to about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and give it a try there. I'm going to speak in a little bit more of a powerful voice from about a foot or so away from the microphone. And now I'm going to speak in a little bit more of a conversational tone about a foot away from the microphone. Last test for the Fifine here. I'm going to go and put the gain down to about 9 o'clock. And I'm going to speak in a conversational tone about 4 inches away from the microphone. And now I'm going to be a little bit more authoritative in my voice. Okay, guys, now I am on the Comica. I am about a foot away from the microphone. The gain is set to about, I would say, 10 o'clock, 10:30 on the gain dial. Volume is at half. Now I'm going to go to about 4 inches away from the microphone and speak there. Now I'm going to back up to about, I would say 20, 22 inches away from the microphone, and I'm going to speak here. So I'm going to turn the gain down to about 9 o'clock on the dial. Still speaking from about under 2 feet away. Now I'm going to about a foot away, and now to about 4 inches away. Now I'm going to turn the volume to a quarter, but leave the gain at about 9 o'clock. So both of these are at 9 o'clock on the dial. And I'm about a foot away from the microphone. Now I'm 4 inches away from the microphone. And now I'm about 2 feet away from the microphone. Speaking in a conversational tone. But now I'm going to talk a little bit more aggressively with my tone from about 2 feet away. Now I'm about a foot away, and I'm going to speak a little bit more aggressively, and now a little bit more conversationally. At 4 inches away, I'm talking a little bit more aggressively, and now a little bit more conversationally. Now, just for point of reference, to sort of give us a control.
Okay, so it started back over again there. Apologize about that. But you get the idea. So let me get rid of this. And we'll go into the closing ceremonies here of who is the big winner. Who is the big winner between the Fifine K683A, this bad boy here, or the Comica STM-USB. Now, they should call this an STM-USB-C because it's kind of confusing, but it is a USB also. This is a really difficult decision, as you can hear, and now you may have your own opinions, but I did like the way that the Fifine sounded just a touch better. Although the Comica, I think if I played with the gain a little bit more, I probably could get the Comica to sound just as good and maybe a little bit better. There is some ease to use with the Fifine, with being very much plug and play. Obviously, the Comica is too, but you have to figure out the gain with the gain volume mix between the two. The Fifine is a heavier microphone, has a slightly more robust windscreen. The cord, again, I like the fact that I only have to carry one cord around with me. But again, if I lose that cord, excuse me, it could be in for some trouble. And with it's collapsible. The tripod is collapsible. For the Comica, obviously, you get the dual band, you get the separate volume, and you get the gain, a slightly flimsier windscreen, and a non-collapsible sort of solid metal piece base. It is attractive, but it is a bit weird. Weird parts continue with Comica as the bag that they send you, you can't even fit the bass into it. It doesn't fit, even just the bass, which is astonishing to me. So the Fifine, oddly enough, I fit the whole thing, including the windscreen, into the Comica bag. So what the hell is going on here? But nonetheless, both very, very good microphones. Now, to give you a winner, if I were to say that I want a microphone for what I need it for, which is the podcast from my cell phone. If you're going to be doing it all the time, I would probably go with the Comica. I think if you were able to get the settings right, you could probably use it as an everyday cell phone podcasting microphone. I don't know how long it'll last because it is a little bit lighter weight. The Fifine for me is probably a better fit because of the fact that I like the fact that it's heavier, the sound's a little bit crisper, and I don't have to worry about setting stuff up and worry about the dials turning in my backpack, that sort of thing, because I am only using it as a backup in my particular case or as something for being done in the field when I'm not walking around. Like I'm at someone's house and they want to, or someone calls me and says, hey, you want to jump on this podcast? If I was walking around in a field or somewhere, again, I'm going to use this bad boy because anybody I'd be talking to would be next to me. But as far as a scale goes, if I'm going to set a scale with a professional microphone being 10, with that iPhone headphone set being the stock set OEM being at 1, I would put, and just for more point of reference, I would put this at about a 4.5, 5, which is actually pretty good. I would put my Audio-Technica at about an 8.5. And that leaves these two microphones. I would put the Comica STM-USB at about 7.5, 7.75. So really good. I would put the Fifine, however, at about 7, maybe 7.25. So it is below, and forgive my cough, but big factor here, the portability, compared to the features of the Comica, but the Comica also costs about twice as much. I paid $120 on Amazon for the Comica. Now I found it for $99 elsewhere. I think $95 actually, but I figure after I add in shipping and I have to wait, it's better to get it on Amazon. The Fifine was $55, so at least half, if not less than half, for the Fifine. That is a huge advantage, especially for a heavier microphone that had out of the box with no adjustment, pretty decent sound, as you heard. Was a little bit more staticky on the Comica, but that might be, again, be because of the gain setting. I'm not a super expert with gain. You might be. So either way, real good score for both of these. I think both, either way you go, you're going to be in really good shape. And yes, the answer is yes, Virginia, you can podcast from your cell phone and sound professional, and obviously get the advantage of that great cell phone camera, which is much better than this crap that I get from my Logitech webcam. So hopefully this was of help to you. I hope that you guys subscribe to the channel if you like politics and social issues. But again, thank you for tuning in to Dig on America, the smartphone USB-C podcast microphone championship by a nose goes to Comica. But although for me, I think I'm going to keep the Fifine because it just fits my style better. Thanks again, guys. Thank you for listening. Come back soon. Bum, 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 bum.